Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of On the Wrong Lead Live, where we're going to go ahead and handicap a little bit of Santa Anita. Coming back off their. Well, actually, no. I think did they run last week or they had 2 week break? Mark, I forget. Are we
They
coming off
did.
the break or they run last week? Okay.
They ran. There was that little Los Al short 2 week meet, and then they were back last weekend, I think. So yeah, Santa Anita's back. And I think the two of us were looking at cards and trying to figure out what do we want to talk about. Obviously, the Derby is next week, and both of us are going to be dragged into 300 other media streams and people's podcasts and other content creator stuff that we always get dragged into every year. So. It's fun to talk about something that's not Derby, something that's like casual, laid back, chill. We can kind of joke around and have some fun with. And then next week we can be a little more serious and, put on our epic tout hats. So this, I think, honestly, we were talking about either Keeneland Friday or doing Churchill Saturday or Santa Anita Saturday. I think of the three cards, the Churchill card's garbage. And I mean, sorry, it just is. And then looking at the other two cards we had options of, both were good, but I thought, let's go Santa Anita. We haven't talked Santa Anita in a while. Good little card. Some really nice turf races, big competitive fields, and not the classiest of racing, not elite stuff or anything else, but some good fun cards that are fun to take a stab at.
Yeah, it should be. It should be. It should be fun. I'm trying not to play too much leading up to the Derby, but Keeneland has been good to me. Just it hasn't been great. Like it hasn't been like where I've just like I hit something with multiple thousands of dollars, but like I've had a couple like a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. Oh, like then I'll put 250 $300 through the windows, get nothing, right? So just kind of like pick and going. I finally I spiked the turf pick 3 today for $6, which really helped. And it's really interesting, Mark. I was on Reddit the other day, and this is kind of off topic, but I was on Reddit the other day, and someone had posted an Equibase like payoff chart of Mountaineer 10 years ago, 15 years ago or something.
Oh, I
And
saw that.
and
Yeah.
someone's like, "Oh, this is like what look at how good the payouts used to be, right?" And I'm like, "Dude, yeah, he's looking specifically at the trifecta and superfecta.
Yeah.
They're dollar payouts.
Yeah. They're
A dollar
pay.
trifecta.
It's $1 per, and it also was like a 12 or a 14 horse field at Mountaineer. That's like, oh yeah, a 7-2
Mhm.
over 5-1 over a 7-1 kind of a thing, and it pays $1,000 for the trifecta.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, it's $1 base, and it's a 12 horse field, and the short priced top two got washed off. Like you
Yeah.
selectively chose it and everything else, and like, yeah, the guy was trying to make an argument that the CAWs have sort of ruined value and this sort of thing.
Which they have. Don't get me wrong. They
They
absolutely
have.
have.
Yeah, sure.
But I think especially this turf pick 3, what I think it really highlights is higher minimums are better. I mean, they just are. I think the $3 pick threes, the $5 doubles, those kinds of things. I honestly, Mark, like I know maybe I'll catch flack for this, and I don't think I'm talking too much, but like I mean, even like win payouts, like if they made like all wins and doubles be like a $5 minimum, they moved trifectas to $1 minimum. If they moved pick threes to dollar minimums, pick fours to dollar minimums. Leave the pick five and the pick six at 50 cent, $2, whatever you want to do
No, no,
there.
no, 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 no.
But
Pick six should be the first thing that they change the minimums. Pick sixes should be at a minimum dollar base, and go back to the old Naira. For years, Naira had the biggest pick six pools in the country. Anywhere, everybody targeted them. They were a huge thing. You could play them great on the daily. Carryovers got massive, and they were $2 base wager, and they did phenomenally well with it. And then everybody's gone to these stupid gimmick wagers, and finally the bettors have gotten smarter, and you stop seeing the money rush into them. But no, I agree with you. For the most part, I agree with you, Josh. I think $1 or $2 on the pick six. Pick five, I think even when they came out were a 50-cent wager, and that was one of the selling points of pick five. And I don't have a problem keeping pick five as a 50-cent wager. Pick four should be a buck. Pick three should be a buck. Doubles should be $2. And I like the old school $2 win bet. I think that leaves at least the win pool approachable to a smaller player, makes it very accessible. And also if you standardize $2 win bets across the win play shows across the board, it makes reading what's put up on the board more consistent. And we all get Mountaineer is the one that always kills me with this. Mountaineer shows $2 pick fours when you can play it as a 50 cent. So you see it, the numbers pop up, and you're like, whoa, I'm live to $3,000. Oh, no, you're not. You're live to $750. Like, there's a huge difference there, and it's just how they display it up on the screen. So no, I agree with you that higher, but back to the original point. I think we've seen Keeneland do this very successfully. You've also seen Santa Anita, who we're going to talk about here shortly, foreshadowing, do this very successfully as well. They put these higher base wagers in to cover certain sequences, and you see COW on those wagers, and you've also seen the payouts be really stout. So no, I very, very much agree with you. They're very good. And if I'm cutting out, let me know, and I can log off or back on or fix something. Let me know if I'm.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just on my end, but I'll see if the guys, if Nick and Jay there in the chat. Okay, it's just me. So
Okay,
it's
good,
just
good,
it's just
cool.
on my end. You know what? It's funny. Sometimes when I do this with Andrew, I get the same thing, and it's
Okay.
mainly when I'm playing other stuff, like when I'm playing music or something. Oh no,
Oh, geez,
no,
cutting
he's cutting
out.
out. Okay, well,
Just
you
you
sound good now.
cutting out. Yes, he is. Okay. Okay. Cool. May have been something weird going on in the background. Who knows? I do live in the middle of nowhere, so.
Okay, well, he's good now. Um, anyways, what was I gonna say? Oh, so I saw Jay said 5 races in a row without a Baffert entry. Is that a record?
Oh, dude, it's amazing. It's just you gotta love it, right? You just gotta love it.
Yeah. And then Nick saying he loves Santa Anita is finally having good cards again. Wish it didn't require closing Golden Gate Fields, but it might extend it a little bit here. I honestly the cards have been good. I've actually
I,
enjoyed playing
I
Santa
do
Anita.
I do slightly have to disagree with that because I think this time of year historically Santa Anita has been good. Um, where you saw a really diluted product was, in 2 months when it got a little diluted, or kind of that fall where it was 5 horse fields with 3 Bafferts, and it's the same thing Caleb complains about with New York with 5 Chads and that whole deal. You saw a lot of that, but I think we always historically have seen. I know like I would play things like FloCal, that tournament, FloCal tournament. You always saw 10 horse fields in California. It was great. And then you also saw, and then Del Mar tends to have good field sizes. So the California racing product can be good. But again, I think we do run into this situation, and this is a global landscape of horse racing where there's just too many racing days. There's too many cards to fill. There's not enough field size. From a better standpoint, we know the industry isn't based around the better. It's based around the owners, but or breeders, however you want to look at it. But no, I think if there's certain times a year where Santa Anita has put on a good product, and it's not somehow that it's back with the closing of Golden Gates Fields. It's always been this way. They've always had periods of the year where they have a really good product.
Yeah. Yeah. No, racing's been surprisingly good lately. I think Keeneland's been good. I think Aqueduct is getting back on the turf, so that's going to be good. Santa Anita has been good, and then we're getting the king of all racetracks coming back in Churchill Downs.
Yeah, I
And
figured you'd say that.
no, I always like Churchill's product, but I think honestly, it's just a byproduct of Kentucky, right? Turfway's product, they get
Yeah.
a ton of horses. Keeneland, they get a ton of horses. Churchill, they generally get a ton of horses until deep into the summer, and then it switches to Ellis, and then once the summer kind of hits, it's all about Del Mar and Saratoga, anyways. But we should have a good month or two here of racing. And yeah, a lot of excitement. I think. Oh, Woodbine. Yeah, Marco mentioning Woodbine. Woodbine
Oh,
is
yeah. I don't
great
play a
too.
lot of Woodbine, but it does have a good product at times.
Yeah, and Nick's saying summers when places have tiny fields because there's a lot of tracks open. Yeah. Well,
That's
like I
true.
said,
No, he's
we'll
right.
see. We'll see what happens. But anyways, all that being said, like and I started talking about this because, like I said, I hit that turf pick 3, twice. I hit it for $6, and it was, I believe, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, it was three straight 7-2 shots.
I think it was. That sounds about
I
right.
think all the horses paid like between $9. I don't think any horse paid over 10. It was like nine something, nine something, nine something, and that thing paid what 600 and almost $700 for three. Like that's everything to do with big fields and the large base. We see it all the time with superfectas and stuff like that. And yeah, it's gonna be yeah. I think it's a change for the good, but
Yeah, as I say, that sequence was frustrating to me. I'm a little tilted by it because if it wasn't for a absolutely atrocious a ride on a price in the first leg, you probably had a 0 to your payout, and I actually hit it. So, and I hit it for
yeah,
$6. That Machado horse, where he did everything he could to invent trouble multiple times with that horse, and the horse misses by. I mean, I think the horse finished third or fourth, but only missed by a length, and he gave up way more than that with the 2 start and stops with that horse. And it's just frustrating when you see the race well, and then you get some very just dumb rides. So, a little tilted by that sequence. But there's always tomorrow, right? And then I don't have to deal with Keeneland until the fall, which is just love hate
yeah.
relationship with that place.
That yeah, that 6 was a horse I really really liked. I
Same.
think I would have only hit it one time because I think I basically I really like the 8 and 10, but
But
still,
instead of getting the favorite, you would have gotten
yeah,
a 10-1 horse. You would have gotten probably 5 extra return. You would only hit it once, but it probably pays 3K for the one hit instead of you hitting
yeah,
it for $6 where you get 1,200. Right? So
yeah. I mean, I did have a couple horses in that last. I had one horse in the last. I think the might have been the 9 horse that was paying like 1,800 to him. I mean that would have been nice too, but yeah, it was good. It was good. It was it's nice to feel like I'm seeing the ball pretty well going into the best betting day of the year, in my opinion.
yeah,
Um,
same.
and yeah,
Uh,
it's I don't know. It just feels good. It feels good to have a couple of positive weeks. Both horse racing and sports betting. I've been doing pretty well on sports as well. So
I
um,
haven't really been doing any sports. Been playing more tournaments this time of year,
mhm.
and Caleb and I have both been kind of comparing notes. We've both been kind of targeting some of these Tequila tournaments, and both of us have had some very near misses on some nice scores. I did take what second or no third place in one of the features at Keeneland. That was a nice little score. Hit the Parks Mando, which was nice. That was a nice little give me a little spending money for Derby Day. But a lot of near misses at Keeneland. Keeneland's always one of those tracks. So you feel like you're seeing the ball well, and then you have a day like yesterday where you just are like, oh my god, you couldn't be more off. So it's tough track, but a fun. It can be fun. I just have to. My thing is, I think for years I always took Keeneland too seriously. I took it as serious as I take Saratoga, and I do terrible if I play that place seriously. I kind of have to understand that there's the I don't know, confuckery in there. And I just have to kind of embrace it and understand that it's Kentucky. And, sometimes you have to kind of read between the lines with some of those races.
Yeah. But going forward, right? Next week we got the Derby. We have two streams lined up. Thursday night, we're going to be streaming, and the pretty one who's not here today is also not going to be available. So we got somebody just as smart and good looking to fill in.
I doubt if that is a combination that exists in horse racing.
Well, I all right. I got I spent all the budget on the big guest that we have lined up, and
Ooh,
I'm hopefully I
wait,
don't
we
put
have
him
a
on the
budget.
spot.
We have a budget. Really?
I mean, I mean $0 is a budget. I mean, it is a budget, but hopefully, and I see him in the chat here. Nick Severs is supposed to be joining us next Thursday, so hopefully,
The man, the myth, the
he's
legend.
he's able to join in, and give us his idea on the Oaks Day card. So I think that's going to be fun. I always like getting new people in here and getting other additional, people just get different ideas.
Nick,
We used
very
to
smart.
do.
He's got some great opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to do not to get too much into content talk, right? But we used to do like a monster pod or like get multiple guests and do videos and stuff, and that was all well and good. Um, it took a lot of time, and unfortunately, with work, my big conference is my big conference happens to be the same week. And the last couple of years, it's been the same week of Derby, and so it's just like it's like literally the only 3 days that I'm out of town 100%, and it's just like it just doesn't work out. So we're gonna get drinking champagne out there. We're gonna get Nick on for the Thursday pod, and then Friday or Thursday stream, and then Friday stream should be myself, and Caleb, and we'll
Nice.
go ahead and we'll be covering that. You will be poolside because
Slash waterway slash maybe intercoastal waterway ish. I will be in Florida, buddy's 40th birthday party. And one of the group that I'm hanging out with as part of this birthday party is in the, as I think somebody, Nick had mentioned, in the KDBC. So I may buy into the KDBC just so we can talk trash while we're both firing away. That's always fun. So, but I will be in Florida. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next week, and then doing the streams from there. So our good friend PDT may hop in a little bit on stream as well. Again, another sharp, very very sharp handicapper. Very good dude, great person. He comes up to Saratoga a lot. We hang out, and he hung out with us at Breeders' Cup a couple times. So great dude overall. So we'll probably see a little bit of him. Again, maybe I in the KDBC. We'll see how I'm feeling and go from there. And I think you have. I don't know if you're officially throwing it out there yet, but you have some fairly interesting potential Derby news.
yeah, I'm as of right now tentatively I will be in Louisville, and will be at the Derby, I believe. I have to figure out the specifics on where and when and what's going on, but I was lucky enough to have my friends Carrie Lee and Matt, who are going to be out of town, and they graciously offered to let me stay at their place while they're out of town that weekend. Probably about 20-25 minutes from the track. I mean, everything's just a complete bonkers that weekend anyway. So, um, but it should be, yeah, it should be fun. I gotta kind of figure out specifics on what I'm gonna do, and I'm sure I'll have more information over the next couple days. But yeah, and that was just kind of something that happened last minute. I was originally planning to go with you to Florida, and just it's just been a crazy couple months for me
Yeah, yeah.
here, and work and all this other stuff, and so yeah, it's I'm already I'm already thinking about the fact because my conference is 3 hours from here, so I'm literally gonna drive back Wednesday night, come home, record with Andrew, wake up the next morning and drive down to Louisville. It's gonna be. I did it last year. I did it last year for we went to Thurby, with some of the locals, but yeah. Marco says he wants to see my outfit if I go to the track. Dude,
Josh's track outfits are a little boring. Like
yeah.
he needs to turn it up a couple of levels. Give Eve, let her go, give you some good ideas. Let her really like turn it up to 11. That'd be nice. So, and also a little plug. I will be on the Notorious OTB covering the Thurby card with a $100 best bet. I think that'll come out next Thursday. So we haven't put it together yet. We have everything else scheduled. So obviously, Chase is in chat with the Notorious OTB. Obviously, we hop on his show. He's always been a great supporter of our content. We've been a great supporter of his content. He's one of the few touts in the business that doesn't give you 12 horses in a 10 horse field kind of a thing. He's actually a sharp handicapper and gives you some legit opinions. So yeah, I will be hopping on his stream and hopefully giving out some winners for you.
Marco saying Josh in the fedora. That's more Mark's game, not mine.
That is more my game.
I,
Yeah, I will
I'm not a
probably
hat
be in
guy.
Florida wearing a fedora. I mean, I desperately need a hat. Nobody wants to look at this. It's the reflection is just brutal. It's just not good.
Apparently, you're Wednesday, Mark.
Yeah, we're recording Wednesday, but I imagine it comes out Thursday.
I
don't know.
Nick's saying good. He can finally listen to that show again.
Oh, did you stop listening to it? Like,
he
is there
downloads
beef?
it. He downloads it. He doesn't listen.
Okay.
He downloads it, but he doesn't listen to it.
See, I
But
listen on the way. I have a long drive to work, and I always listen to it in the mornings on the way back and forth to work. It's a good listen. Always gives me some chuckles. Always gives you some good insight too. I may not agree with the opinions, but at least you're hearing opinions from other people, and that's always. I think, especially this time, you going to the Derby. It's always one of those things you want to know who are people that like I can listen to their opinions. They can give me a little extra color and help shape my opinions, but they're not a pack of idiots. So that's one of the few programs that I do like to listen to because good feedback, right?
Yeah. So before we move on to Santa Anita, I think we'll probably get through it pretty quickly. But
real quick, because they're loading into the gate, 4-8 over 138 double at Evangeline. Okay, go on.
You got okay.
I mean, I can live bet. Why would I not be?
I mean, go for it, right? But I need I don't want to. I have a hard time, right? Because I get like everybody from now till forever is going to get just as much Derby information, Derby overload, right? Everyone's talking about Derby.
Totally.
And, Mark, your phone's probably going to start blowing up here in a couple days asking who to bet in the
Already
Derby.
is.
Yeah.
Already is.
Right. So I don't want to get too into Derby talk and like actual Derby talk, like talking about the race. But we're a week out and we haven't heard too much about defection or anything. It seems like we got the full kind of, we got an idea, right? There's always going to be
last
one or
works
two maybe
haven't
during the
happened.
week.
You're gonna have last work. Somebody that will come back soft from a work and they don't love it and they'll Preakness or whatever. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
But anyways, gun to your head right now. Who do you like? Like if you had to take top pick, okay, let's not say top pick because then you start thinking about value and let's devoid of prices and everything like that. Who do you think wins?
I can't see. I can't put it in that framework. I sort of have to put the value overlay on there. I don't know. I think because I have to put the value overlay on there, I'm really interested in firing back at Cole Battle because I think I'll finally get a price on him. I think he ends up going off 10 or 12 to 1. Small connections. Not a lot of people know where he is. We know that going into going to the Arkansas Derby, that was not his normal prep cycle. They've gone back to it. Apparently, he's working out like a freight train in the mornings. Really looks cranked. I like his pedigree. I like his run style. I think he has the right run style to win the Derby. I think he's such a tactical trip. And I think I get the right price on him. He breaks a couple Derby rules for me. I'm hoping I'm not leaning into the story too much. But I think right now he's my Derby horse.
So I've been having a hard time with the Derby because I feel like I have this meme futures bet that is clouding my judgment, right? Because I
Mhm.
bet Rodriguez at 107 to 1, and he's going to be 12 or 15 to 1, right? Like he's not going to he's going to be fourth or fifth choice, I'm thinking, in the Derby. And so I don't know if I like him just because I have the price I have because of that. But even saying that, right? I like, as much as I like him, I think it's journalism's race to lose. And
It's journal. I mean, we all know that, right? Like
yeah,
we all kind of know that. I mean, the only argument against journalism, I think, is the fact of he's untested outside the state of California,
yeah,
and I think that's the big asterisk, which sometimes matters. But I think in the last 20 years, that's become a much less of a thing. Um, so it's journalism's race to lose, but like there are certain years, max security year, where I love the chalk. This is just not the chalk I feel super
mm.
excited. Like something feels a little bit, and I don't know what it is, but he just isn't. Something's
See,
not there.
I'm the exact opposite. I normally hate the chalk. I normally do not like. I mean, listen to me bash um, fierceness last year,
Uh huh.
bash Forte the year before. I
Hmm.
hated those horses, but there's just something about this horse. I like. I just there's just something different about it. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't dove too deep. I haven't. This is. We'll see when actual PPs and everything come out. But gun to my head, I mean, like I think the chalk is gonna be tough. I
Yeah,
see
agreed. Agreed.
Jay saying at 15 to 1 or higher, he'll take
You
Citizen
won't
Bull
get
and
either of
East
those
Avenue.
prices. No way. No way.
Um, I uh, I also have a future wager on Citizen Bull, but it is much. It is not going to be as good as the price I'm going to get on him during the race. I think I got him at.
I was right on Citizen Bull at the right time. I don't know if he's a horse I will ever pick in a race ever again. And then East Avenue, I don't understand that horse because I don't really think he's that good. But he's a horse that everybody seems to kind of, you ask people like their top four Derby horses and smart people, East Avenue's always in that list. I don't understand it, especially given the pace complexion it looks like the shape of the Derby. There should be quite a bit of pace. Him and Rodriguez and other horses like that are going to be part of that pace. I don't think you want any of the pace horses unless the race comes up really sloppy, which it could. Like it's this time of year in Louisville it does tend to get a little, there's always a chance of rain.
Yeah,
But given that, I don't think you want somebody on the pace. I think you want somebody coming from just off it. I think you're going to get 10 to 1 on Citizen Bull just because of the Baffert factor. And then I think East Ave maybe 12 or 15 to 1 at probably 12 to 1 range on him. So I just don't see either one of them being able to work out a trip that really benefits them. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm just double checking here because what did I get Citizen Bull at? Well, I think I got him at 9 to 1. Wait, did I get him at 9 to 1? No.
yeah, and I think Russ has a really good point. I tend to ignore all the Derby noise until the post position draw, and then I handicap the race. Everybody wants to talk about the Derby for 3 months prior to the Derby, and that's just it's terrible. It's a terrible waste of time, but it's sort of that vacuum that the Derby has created. It's its own ecosystem around the Derby, and it's just absurd. The Derby is not my favorite race of the year. It's actually close to the bottom of my races that I really enjoy for the year. Um, and so I think there's so much hype is put on the Derby, and so many people talk about it for so long. And until you really know post position draw, who's actually in the field, until I can really sit down and cap the race and really understand it, I'm just throwing names out there, and I'm throwing horses out I like, and I think I'm interested in, and I think have reasons to have upside, which is why I threw Coal Battle out there. Um, I just it's just way too early, and we need to see more.
Yeah, I got 107 to 1. So it's going to be
Is it on Rodriguez?
yep, $2,100 if that comes in. And then yeah, I unfortunately got 9 to 1 on Citizen Bull, which is
So Nick is
not
saying he likes the Preakness prep. Man, that's good for him. I respect that.
and then let's see. I also, because I'm a just like a sadist. What we got?
I'm just laughing at Nick.
Oh,
I
I
kind of
also
had a
bet.
soft spot for Seize the Gray. Like, how can you not like that horse? But I guess Nick doesn't. So
That's funny. I also had exacta bet, but I don't know if they have the pool for that up. Um, but yeah, I always think that the future bets are kind of a sucker bet, but I think I got kind of lucky. I mean, well, like I said, if my horse makes the gate, I'll at least have a little bit of a thrill. But like I said, I'm having a hard time separating that. Like, do I just like it because I have a future wager on it? Do I actually really like him? I don't know. But like I said, as we get closer, we'll talk a little bit more, and we're gonna talk so much Derby over the next week and a half that I'm sure we're gonna be sick of it once it's done. But Santa Anita Park, we got a late pick five. Mark, I had to make I think I had to make some choices in this pick five
agreed.
because I don't like. I think occasionally, right, like you end up in a place where you get you're three wide, and hey, they happen to be the top three choices, right? Like, and like I think like in a sequence in like a pick five, you can get away with that maybe in a leg, right? But when like you land on like the top two or three horses in every single leg, I think you got to start analyzing like, wait a second, like is this actually going to pay anything, like what's going on, what happens if the favorite wins, you have to start, um I think you have to start making decisions, right? And maybe singling a race, right, where maybe you do like the top three choices, but hey, this is the horse I like the most, and this is where I'm gonna try and squeeze some value out of this thing. And I thought that this sequence kind of um spoke to that a little bit. This first race, the Royal Heroine, Grade 3 race, mile on the turf. And yeah, we got a nice full field here. We got 13 horses in here. They're all in the race, right? No AEs here. Your morning line favorite is going to be the 6 Tirupati. You got 7-2 on Uncorked, 9-2 on Raw Ability, 5-1 on Public Assembly. You got double digits on everybody else. And I really did think that this was a worthy favorite to your potty. I thought that this horse made a ton of sense. Obviously went wire to wire last time um, in the Grade 3 Wilshire, but I guess I might be a little concerned that I don't think that this is going to be a race that this horse is going to be able to go wire to wire in. I think that there's some fast horses in this race. Um, and it seems like this is a horse that's really only won on or just off the lead. So I'm not saying that this horse can't sit just off, but I just think that you see a couple of this horse's best races, and they're definitely wire to wire type win. So although an A for me and a lone A, I do think there's two other horses that I need to use in this spot. I thought the 4 Uncorked is obviously the second choice here, and I think if there is a lot of pace in this race, I think that this is a horse that's going to be able to um, pick up some of the pieces here. And you might see Mike Smith. Oh my God, Mike Smith on a turf horse. And that shout out Cabo Spirit last weekend, where Mike Smith made me a ton of money on that ride. But I feel like Mike Smith, uh, he's very good at two things. He's good when he's on the lead, and he's good when he knows he can only make one run, right? No thinky, just righty, right? He's like Ricky Santana, right? And when he knows he's got this like a P or S type, and he's like, all right, I can make one run, that's it, like fine. If you need Mike Smith to navigate a trip like a Flavian Pratt, no, it's just not gonna happen, right? He's not gonna weave in and out of traffic, right? He's either got to be out in front, get the horse to relax, and win wire to wire, or okay, I got one run, I'm gonna sit
Yep.
and
I'm gonna
get
sit
outside and
and
make that
just
one
sit and
run.
do. Yep.
And I mean, the man has made a ton of money. You know, even the last couple of years doing that. And like I said, I haven't been following horse racing, you know, for more than what, man, I don't even know when Justify was. What, 7, 8 years now?
I mean, as was prefaced in our group chat today, when you didn't know who Rachel Alexandra was, so
Yeah,
go
I mean,
on.
just I mean, Swiss
Some
Skydiver,
horse.
Swiss Skydiver 1.0. That's it. But it's the beta version of Swiss Skydiver, right? Anyways, yeah, I think Uncorked in here makes a ton of sense. It's got some speed figures I think that fit in here. Has obviously been running in Grade 2, Grade 3 company, and won this race last year actually with Frankie Dettori aboard. So I thought that horse made a bunch of sense in here. And the number 11 Hamwood Flyer. I mean, Mark, we got the old three cherry special
How
here.
is that not an A for you? You flipped through real quick. I saw that horse as a B, and I was shocked. If you were going to tell me there was one horse that was a lone A in this field, Juan on the speediest of speed horses. I mean, yeah, the draw sucks. We all get that. But finally getting back into a decent barn, I think this horse honestly has some dirtied up form. Those last two were just not this horse's real stuff. And Hamwood Flyer's got a ton of early speed. Highest time form fig in the field. A little bit of dirted up form given they tried this horse on dirt for this horse wants no part of dirt. I'm shocked this is a B on your ticket.
Yeah, honestly, I think it has more to do with the fact how much I like the six. But I think with the prices, I think that this one makes a bit of sense. And I see Jay's right there with me on the 11 Hamwood Flyer. He likes this
Yeah.
one. He says toss the last two on the 11.
Yep. Exactly. Dirty
Um,
up form.
yep. Um, where did you land, Mark?
Yeah. So yeah, a little bit of similar to you. The six makes all the sense, in the world. My issue with Tirapati is more the fact of if you look at this horse's wins, this horse sort of needs the lead. It needs to have a very controlling pace. I mean, they went 23-2 opening in the last race. If you look at two back, the horse faded when they actually had some real pace on early, and I think there's a little more pace early in this race. So I really wonder. I think Tirapati makes the most sense in the field on figures, but I just wonder if the pace dynamics do give Tirapati kind of a tough go in this. Obviously, you're getting one of the best turf riders in the country up, and Jonathan Thomas when he ships west tends to do very well. So there's a lot of things to like, even if I do worry about the pace dynamics in this field. I kind of trust Pasta will invent a good trip. You talk about Flavian Pratt. I think with Flavian Pratt not riding the West Coast circuit, to me, Pasta is the best jock out there. I really did like Hamwood Flyer. I think this is the horse that, Juan has really one way to go. And this horse has only ever won on the engine. We talk about Mike Smith. Mike Smith actually has some wins on this horse because, he was able to just go to the front and wire the field because that's what Mike Smith does. And, I think Hamwood Flyer is a really interesting horse getting back into Peter Ern's barn. And Peter Ern's 35% with horses, first start in his barn. So, you can say, there's a lot of reasons for that. We can go very in depth in that, but let's not do that here. And I'll also mention it's 35% with a $5.49 ROI over the last year, which is absolutely filthy. So yeah, I think Hamwood Flyers is a really interesting player in this race. You also mentioned the 4 Uncorked. I want absolutely no part of that horse. Horse doesn't have a win since April of last year. It's been a very long time. Fresu sees to jump off this one and hop onto the 1 instead. And you get Mike Smith. And going from Fresu to Mike Smith is quite the downgrade. I think this horse ends up probably taking a bunch of money and being a horse I want no part of any of my tickets. I did mention the 1 horse is a little interesting, but needs to kind of take a big step forward. But the 1 horse that's drawn a little inside I am interested in is the 2 Raw Ability. You got Barrios up on this one. Does have a win going this trip at Santa Anita. Again, does need to take a step forward, but this horse has 2 wins in a row. Seems to really be trending in the right direction. If you look at the 3 time form figs, they're 81, 103, 112. So the horse is going in the right direction. And probably needs to run a 115 or a 116 in here to be a major player. So that's not a big step forward, and makes all the sense in the world that this one can do it. So I think I have 3 A's in this spot. I'll get skinnier other points in the sequence, but I think 2, 6, 11 are the 3 I want in here, and that probably gets me. That's all I really need in here coverage wise.
Yeah, and what's nice about this, and this, I love when this happens. This happened with Keeneland, I think last week too. Um, this pick 5 includes the all turf pick 3, which we already talked about. That turf pick $3 minimum, 15%
Mhm.
takeout. So I'll definitely
Very fun
be
wager.
jumping in
Same.
that.
I will be
And
as
in that case, and that rate, and that I might use the 11 as an A in that one. But moving on to race 8. 6 furlongs here on the main track. Optional claimer 10,000 for fillies and mares 3-year-olds and up. Unlike Chase, I will read you your conditions. And you got 11 horses in this race. Your morning line favorite is the 10 Champagne Cami. And Mark, I normally I would like go down the list of the other horses, but I mean, Mark, I just
really,
I don't see how this horse
really,
loses. I don't see how this
really,
horse
Josh,
loses. Yeah, I'm dead
really.
serious. What do you got? Where did you land?
Wow. Okay.
You don't want
No,
any
no,
part of
go.
this 10?
I don't want any part of the 10. I don't want any
Wow.
part of any of the speed in here. I don't know if you want me to go on a rant, but how I looked at this race, there is a ton of speed in this race, and there's a ton of desperate need the lead types. The 1, Woodbane's Way, the 3, Seize the Image, the 10, Champagne Cami, who you obviously mentioned is your top choice, and the 9, Oofta. All 4 of
Oh, Oofta,
those
what a good horse.
have only ever won when they were first at every single call. So you have 4 horses that are desperate, need the lead types. I think this has to melt. This race screams that it comes apart at the seams. And, if it comes apart at the seams, I landed on the 4 Twilight Empire, and that's my lone A. Coming out of a low percentage barn, coming into a much higher percentage barn, in the I'm not going to even try to say his name, but
Librado Barocchio or Barocchio?
Barocio. And he's a 21% trainer. He's 21% with first timers in his in his barn. This horse is, kind of getting some stealth class relief coming in here. Getting into a race where, she's I think just really set up for success. She's a horse that has, isn't, I don't want to say is camera shy, but is definitely a horse that she wins, just not a ton. But I think people are going to look at the connections who are a little lesser known, and they're going to look at Kyle Frey being up and say this is a horse I can just discard. But Frey's about 20, is a little over 20% with this barn. He seems to be the kind of go-to jock. So I think what happens is there's just a ton of pace up front. This race, with 4 horses that need to go, this comes apart at the seams, melts down, and it sets up for somebody like Twilight Empire. There's a couple of other meltdown type horses as this comes apart that I think are interesting, but of those, I think the 4 is the most interesting one. Are you thinking that the speed just holds apart in this, or holds together in this? Is that kind of your take?
I mean, I just think that he's the speed of the speed and just the absolute best horse in this race. I mean, I don't know, Mark. I don't have I only have Briz up, but I'm pretty sure like on on DRF like he's what 8, 10 points faster than every other horse in this field.
So yeah, I mean, if he runs back to he's run a 98, an 82, and a 93 in his last 3 dirt races. The 4 has run an 86, an 84, and a 75, right? So I think your argument of is he the best race horse in the field? Sure, but there's other horses in here that have kind of tickled around that sort of 90 point, and I think if you're playing for a pace collapse, I'm less worried about what the horses have sort of run figures wise, because they're not going to run their best race. When speed horses tend to run their best races when they're comfortable and loose on the front end, which all four of those horses I've mentioned have run big figures when they've done that. So, yeah, I mean, I understand where you're at. The fact that this horse is what, 3 for his last 3 on dirt, won by what, 12 lengths, 2 back, and that optional 20. There's a lot of things to like. I understand why, and he. I also, I'm assuming he's going to be bet like that. There's 2 to 1's a pipe dream. You're going to get 4 to 5 on this horse, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean he's going
So
to be super short. So
he's gonna be
I
short.
mean, yep. But like I said, like I singled him here. I had to make decisions later because I used him, but yeah, I tried not to get too cute here. I didn't want to be like Chase, thinking that a sprint was going to melt down. But Jay says the sixth discrepancy. It's Miller off the claim, perfect running style for the pace meltdown, and that's the sixth discrepancy. Did you give this one a look at all?
Discrepancy. I did. I don't think I realized Abel got off what looked like a better horse to hop on this horse, so it does make some sense. I thought if I was looking for a pace meltdown, there were other horses that I was more interested in. Somebody like the two, Lady's Sermon, and the other one I was a little interested in if this melts apart, and probably my sort of second choice from a pace meltdown standpoint was the 7 Motown Gal. I realize up in class and everything else, but connections have been very good together. My thought was more horses like that come apart. I don't hate the horse you landed on. I think this comes apart unless there's probably 2 scratches that are speed types, or occasionally you do. And I understand where Josh is coming from. Sometimes all the jockeys read all the jockeys read the form like we do, right? And they're gonna all look at this and say, "Oh, we're all on speed horses. Well, let's rate our speed horses." And then all of a sudden, one speed horse goes. Suddenly, there's low in speed, and they wire. We've Naira special, I think, is what we refer to those as. But
Mm-hmm.
those do happen. Maybe that does happen. But I think I'm gonna kind of set up and play this for a pace meltdown.
Fair enough. Anything else on this race?
No, no, no. I mean, you're so really you're taking the chalk and I'm taking the closer.
Yeah.
This is what happens when Caleb's not here. It's just total, just
Well, I mean, at least I'm taking the speed horse, right? So I'm not. I'm
okay,
not.
okay, not too far off. Okay,
Yeah.
that's your
Uh,
brand. Yeah,
Race 9. We got a state bred optional claimer here. Mile on the turf. Optional claimer 20,000 N1X. 3-year-olds and up here, and you got a field of 9. Your morning line favorite is the 7 Jimmy Blue Jeans. You get 5-2 on Brazenly. You get 9-2 on Clouseau. You get 6-1 on Table for 2. You get double digits on the rest. And yeah, Mark.
you see, you
This
singled Jimmy Blue Jeans, and then you want to let me talk after this, or
I mean I did single Jimmy Blue Jeans
okay, cool.
because I love speed. But
And you also
you
love
know
Buck, so
yeah, I also looked at the 5 Brazenly, but like he's an interesting one, right? Because if you look at his last race, the speed figure on that last race is bonkers, right? But the last race was on dirt. The race 2 back also on dirt. And the turf races are good, but they're not great like the 2 dirt races
yeah.
are. And so like I like because originally I looked at this horse. I'm like, wow, like this horse should absolutely like romp here. But I'm like, you know, really the figures that romp are the dirt figs. They're not the turf ones. And so like I said, I kind of landed on Jimmy Blue Jeans. Unfortunately, I did not have morning lines on, and I thought that this was not going to be your morning line favorite. I thought that there were a couple of holes I think you could poke in this horse. So once I saw this horse was 9-5, I'm kind of like, God blessed. Like this is gonna look real stupid if this horse loses. Because I kind of like them. Like I said, from a speed perspective, seemed to the last 2 races to kind of not get the lead, just sit off, and he just seemed to kind of be flat those last 2 races, and so I don't know if it's just the fact that he prefers Del Mar. I don't know if it's the fact that maybe he's just coming off form as a 7-year old, right? Um, but Juan gets back aboard for Jeff Mullins. They're 56% the last 9 times they go together. You know, I just Juan is very very good on the lead. Doesn't matter if it's on dirt or on turf. He's very very good. Brisnett's got him
You,
32%.
you could just
I think
drop the on
that's
the lead. Juan is just really, really good.
yeah
The first weekend, he was, I think, for the first 2 or 3 days of the meet, he was 50% on the
yeah
meat. Like that is just like and this isn't a joke colony. I mean, it's not the best colony in the world, but he was something like 6 of 12. Like it's just crazy. He's and he's dunking on a colony that's not terrible. It's
yeah.
very impressive. So,
But it's just like the reason why I bring it up is like it's interesting, right? Because he's 24% on the meat, right?
mm,
He is 32% on E types. Right. He's
yeah.
even better than what he's doing with horses that
No,
basically are on or near the lead. Like, yeah,
what is
I
that?
think
What does that number look like if you cross off all the Baffords?
that's a good point. I don't know.
I bet you it goes down substantially because we know how Baffert
Probably.
trains horses to runs, right? But
Yeah.
go on. Sorry.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So Jimmy Blue Jeans I really liked, and then like I said, I found out that he is going to be super short. All right.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, brazenly, I ended up on him. I thought he might be a little interesting because it looks like the horse has got some talent, but obviously he's 7 years old, and the dirt races are just a lot better than the turf ones. So, um, yeah, I'm curious to see like if these are the prices we end up getting. Like I said, I couldn't really get super creative here. I landed on the top two choices. I landed on Brazenly as my B, and I landed on Jimmy Blue Jeans as my A. But Mark, hopefully you have something more creative to add here.
I don't know if it's a ton more creative. I do like Jimmy Blue Jeans, but my concern with Jimmy Blue Jeans is the fact that he comes out of the optional 100 at Del Mar where he trounced, what should have been a much better field than he's facing today, and then they threw him the Turf Classic. Now maybe that was going a little further than he really wants to go. Maybe he's really a miler and he didn't want to go that extra trip. But he didn't run that great. And then he came back in a claiming 32, like an open claim, and he finishes fourth by 1 3/4 at a very short price. You kind of wonder, like, if the wheels kind of started to come off this one. Like, is he a little vulnerable here? Jay just posted kind of where if you think Jimmy Blue Jeans is a little vulnerable, where I would go, and that's Clouseau, the one on the rail. Um, Clouseau has primarily been campaigned on dirt and has primarily been a really nice dirt horse, a horse that just cashes checks and gets his work done. He does have 4 starts on turf. He is winless on turf. But if you look at those races, they actually dropped him in some really tough spots. That last turf race was at a mile in a stakes race, black type California bred stakes race. And he's got a couple, but when they debuted him, they thought he was a turf horse. So his first 2 were on turf. Then he had a Santa Anita race where so what they put him in 2 turf maidens, and then his next 2 turf starts were in stakes races. So they initially thought he was a turf horse. Then he got some wins on dirt, and they just kind of kept him on dirt. He's been a nice horse and has cashed some checks. But you're seeing him get back into George Papadramu's barn. And you're also seeing the fact that George is really, really good first off the claim. He basically, he's hitting at 33% first off the claim. Not a huge ROI, but does very well off it. And he's then taking this horse and putting him back on turf again. I really kind of like him. He doesn't have the turfiest pedigree, but if you look at those turf races, there's nothing really to beat him up about in any of those turf races. And I think he's a very sort of interesting player in this spot. So I thought my top 2 in here were Clouseau and Jimmy Blue Jeans, and I could go a little deeper in here, but I think the race kind of goes through those 2. Those are the 2 I'm am most interested in. Do you have any other places you were going here, Josh, or other horses you were looking at?
No, no,
Sorry, I got a
I'm just going
little
with the 7 and
distracted
the
by
5.
the horse, the 12-1 morning line that got bet down to 5-1 that booms me at Evangeline.
You got boomed?
I got boomed right at the
Damn.
wire. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No, I got nothing else in there. I'm good to move on if you are.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else I want to talk to. Yeah, there's just a couple of first off the claim horses. I thought the 9 horse Rodrigo knows. It's interesting to see Pasta get up here a second time in a row for this one. Small connections, and obviously he's probably one of the best turf jocks in the colony. So interesting to see him end up on there. And I thought the other horse that was interested was the horse Table for Two. A barn that seems to be very savvy first off the claim. Giovanni Franco's had a pretty good meet so far. He's been riding pretty well. So I thought Table for Two, so I thought the 4 and the 9 both at a bit of a price were kind of interesting other horses in here. Nice to see Russ kind of agreeing with me here. A horse that, he definitely has races that fit in this field.
Nice. All right. Moving on here. Race 10. $16,000 claimer for 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds and up, which have never won 2 races. So you can be an open 3-year-old, or you can be a 4-year-old and up that's never won 2 races. At least that's how I read it. I am trying to read the conditions.
You trying to be Chase?
Yes. And
Everybody
morning
wants to be
light.
Chase.
No, Chase doesn't read the conditions. I'm not trying to be Chase.
I thought he did.
7.
No?
No, he's not here to read your conditions.
Okay.
Oh man, you really don't listen anymore. You have to let him know.
I'm joking. God.
7-2 on the 2 Valentine's Candy. 9-2 on Battle Cruiser. You get 4-1 Asmodeus. 6-1 on White Mountain. 5-1 on Can You Hear Me Knockin'. Double digits on the rest. Or no, you get 8-1 on Pete's Old Fashioned. Double digits on the rest. I got a lone A in here, Mark, but I'll let you go first because I feel like I've gone first the last couple races. So where are you?
Lone A, huh? So this is a race I looked at, and I don't even know who the morning line. There's a couple of there's a bunch of shorter price horses in here. I'm going to assume that knowing you are going to be singling the 10 horse, which is Asmodeus,
Asmodeus,
who's
Asmodeus,
Asmodeus. Is that the one you singled?
Yep.
First off, a claim for Peter Miller. Boy, we've been doing this way too long when I know all of your picks. But no, I think Asmodeus is really, really interesting in here. Of the shorter price horses, the one that I want should be kind of controlling speed in a race that doesn't have a lot of speed in it, at least on paper. If you go back a couple of races, clearly a horse that didn't like the synthetic and turf way. And if you go back to some of the time form figs on some of those dirt races at either Aqueduct, Belmont, Indy, Churchill, horse threw up some huge figures and some figures that absolutely tower. I mean, the horse threw up a 110 time form fig at Churchill. This next fastest in this field is an 86. So absolutely just towers. Now, that was a while ago. And does that necessarily translate? I don't necessarily know. That was, last summer, and obviously things change. Those 2 synthetic races are a little tough. I mean, those are too bad to kind of believe, especially when you're talking that the horse was set off at very short prices both times, and seemed to just kind of be speed and then stopped. But I am interested in this one, shipping back out west, getting back on probably the right surface, back on dirt where where the horse has been done his best stuff. But you're talking about a horse that's 1 for 17 lifetime, so not a horse that I will use the Mark trope and say the horse is a bit camera shy. But the other horse I was a little interested in here is a bit of a price, and that's the 7 Mighty Kai. And again, I have to look a little bit in the Wayback Machine in here, but the horse had 2 races about a year ago back at the fairgrounds. Both of them were on turf races that were rained off. They were both optional 100s, so much tougher candy tougher company than the horses facing today. That both kind of play pretty well in here. Races that had figures in the 90s. And I think this is the kind of horse that super dirtied up form. There's no reason connections wise that this one's going to take any money. And you just wonder if is this a horse that they've been really campaigning on the wrong surface for a couple of years. And the switch back to dirt might and a bit of extra class relief in here might perk this one up a little. So I thought that I think that the 10 is the most interesting player in here, but I thought Mighty Kai the 7 was also a little bit interesting. And I know there's not a ton of pace in here, but also sometimes you look at a horse like Mighty Kai and you're like, oh, geez, this horse is going to be way off the pace. But sometimes that switch from turf to dirt, I wonder if this one would be a little bit more aggressively placed.
Yeah, I saw Jay saying that he's got no clue on the 10. He's like, this horse either wins by daylight or gets vanned
Agreed.
off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the 10 looked really, really good. But yeah, the last two races were so bad. Like, you got to question a little bit. But I mean, all those dirt races just look very, very good.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just couldn't really, I just didn't know where else the speed was going to come from. Maybe the two Valentine's candy, right?
Yeah.
You get some speed, but I mean, this is a horse that, I mean, just hasn't really shown a ton of speed the last couple races. And they tried this horse in Robert B. Lewis, and just didn't.
I
Go
was
ahead,
just the
Mark.
thing with Valentine's Candy isn't this a horse that I mean, you want to talk about a class cliff, coming out of optional 50s and dropping into a claiming what is a 16 or 20, he's claiming
Hmm.
16, it's a beaten claiming 16. So this is a horse that's getting just a ton of class relief. And I think if you go back to that two back race for Valentine's Candy, that's probably the one that you kind of want to reference. Was beaten, but much more competitive in that race than had been in quite a while. I like the stretch back out to a mile. Some races like the RB Lewis are interesting. Clearly, the horse was horribly overmatched, but he's running versus horses like Citizen Bull and Rodriguez, and those are really, really, really good horses. We're going to see those in a week. So this is absolute opposite, as bipolar, as polar opposite of the class spectrum as you can possibly get in a 3-year-old. So maybe this is one who is finally finding who his friends really are, getting back to that appropriate level.
Yeah, I mean, you basically said everything I was wanting to say about the 10.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, like I said, we've been doing this together for a long time.
Long time.
Half the time, half
Yeah.
the time we already know which horses each of us are going to be on. Yeah, but we're going to wrap this up here. Race 11, 6 furlong turf maiden race. And we get a field of 12. We get two AEs, and yeah, Mark, this is kind of a tough race to end on here. I kind of landed on two middle prices in here. I think my top pick is probably going to be the three Miss Big City Miss here for Mike McCarthy and Juan Hernandez. I mean, we've already talked about how good Juan's been. And they tried this one going two turns right away, and that's always a big ask on the turf, going two turns, and they went mile and eighth. So I like the fact that they're cutting this horse way back. Obviously, Flavian Pratt was in town that day, and he saw fit to ride. And Flavian Pratt basically gets his pick amount. So there must have been something there. Horse was pretty well bet on debut too. Went off at less than 5 to 1. So it's coming back here, second career race. Um, you know, a pretty turfy pedigree when you see a Dynaformer on top. Through Mr. Big, and then Lemon Drop Kid on the bottom. But Yeah, I think this is just one that it probably is going to need just needed at least a start. If not, is going to need maybe more time to kind of develop. I am a little curious on what this horse is going to want to eventually do because I don't necessarily think turf sprinting is what it wants to do. I do think that this is a horse that wants to go longer, but
Miler probably.
yeah,
If Miler, yeah.
but I think that this horse is probably in a well meant spot here. You're getting 5 to 1. The other horse I do like is the 6, Gadavri. Dan Blacker
The 5.
trains, or the 5, sorry, Gadavri. I saw a 6 to 1. And Antonio Fresu, the other Italian, gets aboard here. And yeah, this is a horse getting Lasix for the first time. There's something about these Los Al horses when they come and they get off that Los Al surface and they go to turf and vice versa. I don't know. There's just something about that surface switch that seems to wake some of these horses up. You see this all the time at Los Al when these turf sprinters come over and all of a sudden they just like get on that dirt and they run really well. And sometimes you see it the opposite way. You get these Los Al horses coming over and doing these turf sprints. Um, but I mean, if you want to talk about turfy pedigree,
Yeah.
right? Ohm is only 21% first time turf. Uncle Mo obviously 14% first time turf, and 15% overall for both. So this is a horse that likes to win early, or the pedigree likes to win early on turf. Maybe it's just a horse that needed a race, or didn't want to win at two. It's a horse that's been working rather well over the last couple months. It seemed to be laid up since July until February, but has been working pretty regularly since then. So um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this one, improve greatly off that first start. I like to see the Lasix for the first time. I like to see the turfy pedigree. So there's not really much I don't like about this 5. Frezu gets aboard. He's great on the turf. So that's all I'm going to use here. I'm going to use the 3 Big City Miss, and I'm going to use the 5 Gadavri. What did you land, Mark?
We were on the same 2 as our top 2, the 3 and the 5. I would flip the order. I would move Gadavri above Big City Miss, and the reason I would do that is that you'll often see this with a lot of high percentage trainers. Somebody like Dan Blacker, who's 46% on the year, which is pretty damn high percentage, where they will have a horse who just kind of needs a start, and they're trying to put some speed into him, and they'll start him at a place like Los Al on the dirt with a bug jock up. There was that horse was not set up to win that race. That horse that was a prep race. That was 100% a prep. That horse was never supposed to win that race. You're now getting a horse with screaming top and bottom turf pedigree onto the proper surface and probably going about the right distance. And you're getting a real legitimately good turf jockey up. So I think Gadavri I'm a little bit more interested in than Big City Miss. And the other horse I realize there's a few horses in here that have tried turf a bunch of times and have kind of flopped, and you almost have to give them at least a touch of another look. Just given the fact that we're talking about the 3 and the 5, and we're hoping they both take a step forward. There's some horses that have shown a little bit more already in their career, and I look at the same way as you do. You expect somebody like the 3 or the 5 to take a step forward, but what happens if they don't? And I think to Nick's point with some of these horses, there's some question marks here, like long layoffs that don't make a lot of sense. Like, hey, there's some question marks there, and you need the right price on horses that probably both get over bat. So the 2 I want to mention are the 10, Have Patience. You're seeing, Rispoli hop up, and there was a period in time where if Rispoli hopped up on a turf horse for Doug O'Neill, they won at like 50%. And there was like 2 years where you could just blind bet. If you saw Rispoli getting up on an O'Neill horse, you just threw money at the window. They would go off at a price and they would win. That partnership has seemed to get much colder, but I think it's interesting to see I think somebody like a Rispoli is a much better turf jock than somebody like Mario Gutierrez. So it's probably a sign of confidence. Somebody like the 10 is a horse that in this field should probably want to be a little bit more forwardly placed. I think Rispoli is extremely good with turf speed types. That we always talk about somebody like a Jose Ortiz, who's really good at kind of measuring out that speed on the front end. And I think Rispoli is in that same sort of league, a very good on the front end type of turf jock. So I think Have Patience is interesting. The other one that's a little bit interesting in here is the 9, Naturally Blonde. I know coming out of the Carla Gaines barn into the Mullins barn, we obviously know that Mullins is very good with new stock at his barn. But you see Raylu get up and you're like, oh geez, that can't be a sign of confidence. Except for the fact, if you look at the last year, Raylu up for Mullins is 50% with a $7.64 ROI. Not a huge sample size. It's only 12 miles, but that means he won 6 of 12. So I don't think it's a sign that this horse isn't live, that Raylu is getting up for Mullins. Like, I think it's probably could be arguably, on numbers alone taken as a sign of confidence. So I thought this, both the 9 and the 10 horses that have a little have some starts, have some, when you look at the two favorites, the two horses we're putting on top, when there's some question marks, I want to have a little bit of coverage to horses like the 9 and the 10. And also both of them, obviously we know Santa Anita turf speed is a really good thing to have. Both these horses are horses that can be forwardly placed. They can be really tactical. They're not going to get washed at the back. So I thought the 9 and the 10 were both the sort of other two that you wanted to have in this field.
Yeah, Jay likes the 8 here, Sassafran. He says the
I
last two
have the horse.
races.
Yeah.
He says the last two races it looked like maybe they kind of fell apart a little bit. And he doesn't think that there's that much speed in here, so maybe a chance that Papa Mandela and Kyle Frey get it done here with the 8.
I looked at that horse as well. I think that, at least to me, the horse is kind of a cut below. The horse needs to take a big step forward. You haven't seen this one in a couple of months, much like some of the others in here. I don't love the fact that Juan gets off and he's not on this horse. To me, that's not a good thing. I don't think Kyle Frey brings anything to a mount that Juan doesn't. So, and by the way, I say Juan because I can't roll my tongue like Josh can. He's got the wonderful enunciation, but my tongue just doesn't work like that. So, but no, I thought the 8 was at least a little interesting. Definitely when you want to have some consideration, probably a C type for me though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun sequence. I think
It is.
I
Fine.
think yeah, I think it's going to be a good card. We got 11 races. Aqueduct obviously is going to be back on the turf, so we should have some fun racing there. Yeah, we have some ways to keep ourselves busy until they draw the Derby. I think they're drawing it Saturday night.
I think
Um,
I think I heard Saturday mid card is what I was
oh,
told.
Saturday.
It's
Okay.
like
Yeah, and it's a
they
night
do
card,
understand
so
there's like an hour break between two races, and they're going to draw it between two races or something, which I think they've done the past couple years, if I remember correctly. Obviously, as of yet, I have not seen enough bath photos or bath pictures or possums climbing through barns, looking at horses. Like, I need more of that before I can really put out any of my good Derby content.
all right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Obviously, check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I'm at Cherry Drank. Mark is at Two Turns. We will be live next week, Thursday with Nick Sievers, Friday with Caleb, and yeah, we'll have a episode of You've Got to Be Shot Tinning Me up either sometime tomorrow night or Saturday. It's covering Shot Tins. I believe it's like Champions Day or something. So they got a couple
Oh,
of Group One
nice.
races
Nice.
there.
Very
So
nice.
that should be fun. And then we'll have Drank and Champagne again next week, doing our long shot, best bet, and bold prediction for Friday and Saturday's cards. As well as, if you haven't already, we have a Drank and Champagne episode out this week covering tomorrow's closing date, Turf Pick 3 at Keeneland. So check that out. And yeah, let's make some money, guys. Have a good weekend. Caleb, please come back.